Today we're going to do a little bit of science in art class, and we're going to see what certain materials or chemicals do to watercolor. And it's going to create different effects to the watercolor on your paper, and then we'll use that for our project in the coming weeks. So first thing, you need a drawing board. The reason for this is we're going to tape our paper to it. It'll help prevent wrinkling and buckling. You need a piece of paper and get your name on it right away. Then your paper needs taped to the board. We don't have to use a ton of tape. Just get a decent sized piece across the top and the bottom, and that'll help hold it still. Plus your paper is going to have to travel. Now the four materials we're working with would be plastic wrap. And inside this cup I have rubbing alcohol, we have a pipette, we have rice, and we have salt, which most of you have used salt in the past on watercolor, and you should know what that does. All right, we're all using your own watercolor sets, but some of you may have to use my brush. So you need to make sure that your brush has bristles that are made of hair, and it needs to be a bigger brush. So if it's a little Crayola or if it's a Crazy Art, don't use it. You need one that's got the red handle and it's got lots of big bristles so it can hold more water. All right, this is going to be a mountain landscape, so you want to choose colors that would make sense in a mountain landscape. So get your brush really, really wet. I'm going to start with some green, for example. Just paint a gentle wave. And this is going to get separated later, so don't worry if things aren't perfect. And I'm trying to paint quickly. Yes, I can go over part of my tape. We want to paint quickly because if you wait too long, your paint's going to soak in. And then the items we add won't have the same effect. I think I'm also going to mix in a little bit of blue, which you don't have to use these exact colors. Just trying to create some variety. All right, now that that's on, I'm going to take my plastic, put it on. Plastic needs to go on has to go on an end. It can't go in the middle. So I'm going to take the plastic wrap, make sure it's wrinkled, and lay it on top of my watercolor. And it's going to stay there. We're going to let it dry that way. Then need to move on to another row. So repeat. And we're not painting any big mountains at the moment. That'll happen later. And yes, I splattered, not a big deal. It'll end up working out to our advantage. So this layer, I'm trying to leave a little gap between this and my first row. And then I want to mix in a little bit of brown so it looks darker. And I think the next item I'm going to add on here is going to be the rubbing alcohol. Now you had to predict what each one would do. This is a pipette. They work by you squeeze the tip, stick it in, and then let go. And then the syringe will fill up with rubbing alcohol. And we're just adding little drops. I'm very gently squeezing. And that's our reaction. I'm going to squeeze out the extra into the cup. Look, my blobs have grown. So the rubbing alcohol is kind of repelling all of the paint in the area. All right, next. I don't want all green and everything, so, well, that's kind of dark. I'm going to make what's called a wash, where we add a lot of water to the paint. And that thins it out and makes it lighter. Making a wash is kind of like it's like when you're mixing with regular paints and you add white. It's kind of like you're making a tint. So creating a wash, I can also mix this in my tray if I wanted. And if that looks a little too gray, I can add a little bit of brown. And on this one, I'm gonna use our good friend, salt. And I'm just lightly sprinkling. And then we'll let it sit and work its magic. And for the top part, I guess I'm going to have some sky color. I'm making a wash on that too, adding just water instead of paint. Try to change the color. I think I'll also take a little bit of watered down black. Make it look a little grayish. And then add the rice. I know it doesn't look like the rice is doing anything at first, but that's something that we need to let sit for a little bit. And once it's had a chance to sit, then we can take the rice and knock it off into the garbage can. And then your little friend here needs to go on the drying rack. Then next week you'll see what it looks like.